Yo, so today we're going to talk about a fragrance from the house of Ferragamo, and it's old school. Let's see if we can still wear it in the new school. You know, it's 2025. Let's see if it can rock. I want you to grab your drink, grab your snack. We're going on a quick little ride. All right, listen, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I am your host for the evening. Today from the house of Salvatore Ferragamo, we have Salvatore Ferragamo's Pour Homme. I believe this was the first fragrance to be released from the line, but we'll verify here. It says Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme is well, let's not say what the notes are. It was launched in 1999. 1999 would put that at 25 years ago this fragrance was released. And what an odd bottle. Look at that from the side. It's kind of this licorice twist. You know, the glass bottle is very odd. I can't imagine what people thought when this bottle was released because it's not the most comfortable to hold. I do love a good full-size glass bottle, but this is almost like the Guess fragrance. It's very generic. Kudos for trying to be different with the twisted glass, but the utility of this fragrance, even on the shelf, I mean, it kind of just reads square and like slightly odd. It looks like somebody messed up in the warehouse with this manufacturing. This looks like one of the defect bottles, but let's go ahead and do an initial thoughts. I'm going to break my test strip in half. A little cheat for you guys. If you want to make your own test strips at home, grab watercolor paper. Or like a cold or hot press paper. You can find them in the art sections if you go to Ross or any store, Target, Walmart, etc. You can find watercolor paper. It's generally very thick and extremely absorbent of water liquid material. And for that reason, it holds the fragrance a lot better than the test strips to me, where you just get a more full wearing. And you can also tailor them to your size. So a lot of times when you have a really thin test strip, you spray it and 50% of the mist misses the test strip entirely and goes on your hands and stuff. So I like making a decent sized thick test strip. This is what my full looks like. And with one sheet of paper, I can generally make about 20 test strips of this thickness. If I was doing it more closer to an actual test strip, I could probably make 40, 50 test strips with one sheet of paper. It's quite impressive. But anyways, I digress. Again, Salvatore Ferragamo's Pour Homme launched in 1999. I believe this was their first fragrance. What appealed me to try this fragrance is, one, Salvatore Ferragamo does have some bangers. As you guys have seen, I've reviewed Bright Leather, for instance, which is an absolute banger, a steal of a price. But so far, my introduction to Ferragamo is similar to Bentley. We're dealing with class. We're dealing with manliness. What appealed me to try this fragrance, though, was that people said there's fig in it. And just by scrolling down here and cheating a little bit, I do see fig leaf in there. So I'm expecting to smell class and fig. So let's see what we're dealing with. The test strip on initial blast feels somewhat alcohol-y. What is this, a EDT? It feels like an EDT. Just double checking with you guys. It says Pour Homme, which I don't know what that means. It's probably very simple, but it looks to be an EDT cologne. So it's supposed to be light and fresh. And I do get that. I do get class and fig. I'm going to be really honest with you guys with this review. I don't like to cap in my wrap. You know what I'm saying? I like to give it to you guys straight. That's why we do it live. Sometimes I even mess up in how I describe stuff, or I might change my mind by the time we get to the end of the review, because I'm reviewing it live in real time. I want you guys to know my initial thoughts and then put a little bit of research behind it to try and put a story together that's helpful for you guys. But I'm still trying to give an honest account of my preference and my bias, but still being truthful. So I get the class. I get the fig. The fig this is a very light fragrance. It's not that pungent. I feel like performance is definitely going to be an issue with this. This is a very unique fragrance in the sense that the note of fig is very unique. So it's not mass appealing in my opinion. It's definitely going to be people who love the note of fig would appreciate a fragrance like this. It definitely has old school vibes to it. I don't know necessarily if fougere is the word. I would say more like a classic man's fresh, leaning the tiniest bit fougere, but not really at all. More in the floral fougere category, not necessarily green or woody. It's got no elements of that. Maybe dry wood at best, but it's got a very kind of crisp, cold water, not aquatic necessarily, but a cold water mist to it with the tiniest note of fig. I mean, the fig's there, but it's so fresh and aromatic that it's light compared to something like Dolce & Gabbana K, Old Navy's Sea Salt and Fig, Banana Republic's Vintage Green. This is like maybe half of the note that is in Vintage Green. This is a lot more fresh, aromatic, slightly watery. When I think aquatic, I think more like green, zesty, fresh, aromatic, not necessarily like cold water. This kind of has like a cold, fresh water to its aquaticness. So I just wanted to make that distinction. But the fragrance very quickly starts drying down, and you start to get less and less of that water note, and it leans more on just kind of this lightly, I don't want to say pungent, lightly kind of bite, fresh floral fig note. And the fig feels a little bit synthetic, not necessarily fake, but no, it's fresh, but the style of the note leads you to feel like it's a synthetic note, but maybe it's just due to the nature of the eau de toilette and it's just very fresh and aromatic. I feel that this fragrance really speaks to its age. This does feel, in terms of its formulation, very simple. It feels like it's somewhat of a cop-out to the note of fig. They haven't really dressed up the fig. This almost is quite simply fresh, aromatic, slightly crisp, cold, watery fig in about a 30-40% potency. And then it feels like most of the backdrop is this kind of EDT rendition of white florals. And maybe some like dry wood, not cedar, not birch. It doesn't have a lot of zing to it. Just simple, maybe dry woods with a lot of white florals sitting behind maybe a 30-40% potency in comparison of fig. I'm not going to say whether I think it's good or not. Let's just kind of roll through some facts before I give you the dry information. Let's go to the note breakdown here. Top notes, we have fig leaf, grapefruit, caraway, Brazilian rosewood, geranium, cyclamen, neroli. Mid, we have carnation, cardamom, rose, jasmine, orris roots. And then the base, we have cedar, vetiver, sandalwood, leather, musk, and oak moss. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is one of those Fragrantica moves where I don't care if they truly put this in the fragrance. 90% of this is not in here at all. What I get quite simply with this fragrance, and don't let this list fool you, is strong, aromatic, not strong, medium to light, aromatic fig leaf, but it smells like figs to me, the fig fruit. All of these florals, jasmine, rose, carnation, cyclamen, neroli, geranium, fig leaf, all kind of contribute, even the oak moss a little bit, to this earthy, white, floral aromatic. I don't get the cedar, the vetiver, maybe a touch of sandalwood aiding with that sweetness. I don't get the leather. Musky maybe, but yeah, man. Fig, aromatic, white floral fig. That's what this fragrance is. It doesn't have a potency that really feels substantial to me. I feel like this is a 6, maybe even a 10 sprayer just to get through an 8-hour shift. This might actually be somewhere like a 3 to 5 hour performance. Usual suspects here, because I don't want to give this a lot of airtime since we're already pushing about the 10-minute mark. Gosh, I hate when that notice pops up too many times. I don't want to seem like a spam channel, but my buttons, sometimes I forget to disengage them, so I apologize for that. But first, before I go into the logistic, quick, bite-sized information that you guys know me for at the end of the video, let me just say I really feel like this fragrance is underwhelming. Below average. It's not a bad fragrance, but I think to people who aren't that impressed with fig, it's going to be a fragrance that gets less than a 5 out of 10 with somebody, not even worth purchasing. To a fig lover, it's very 6 or 7 out of 10ish. I might even lean on 6 because I can't even really call it average just due to the performance, and the uniqueness is going to make it not have as much utility. Is this a man's fragrance? It says for men, but I would strongly make a case for unisex just due to all the floral support that's behind this. And then fig, I think, isn't a masculine leaning fruit. I think it's exactly unisex, maybe even feminine leaning due to how sweet it is. The dry wood kind of gives it this old school class. I wouldn't really call this fougere. I would just call it old school class. You know, this cold, crisp, aromatic water on dry wood. And that doesn't even sound appealing when I say it. But it sure is interesting. This is a fragrance that I think is 40 and up if you would even dare wear it. I think it's any season, any reason, but I do think it'll take a different appeal in colder weather versus warm weather. I got this fragrance for $20, 100 ml, so it's priced nicely. When I look at it in comparison, well, first let me say occasions. It's an EDT, so I think it's any reason. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know about date night, semi-formal and up. I think this is just a casual, highly unique fragrance that no one's going to have on. I've tried wearing it so far, and my thoughts are blank right now. And that's never really a good sign, because when I look at the different fig fragrances I've come across so far, again, just to repeat, you know, you have Banana Republic's Vintage Green, which is like this synthetic green forest grassy vibe with notes of tea and fig. That's a lot more bright, same way bright leather is bright, or Vetiver Sensual. It's got a more bright, zesty earthiness, slight synthetic to it that's just more mass appealing with a lot more utility. Even something as cheap as sea salt and fig, which you can get for like $10 at Old Navy, I think smells exactly like this, but is going to give you double the performance for only $10. Now, I think sea salt and fig from Old Navy, which is a very sleeper fragrance when it comes to fig, it does feel like a female body mist in a sense, but if you like fig, you just got to have it just to say you did. It's got a body mist vibe to it, sure, but you know, it's still great smelling fragrance, you know. But I think that's going to give you double the performance. This might be a little classier, just kind of on the dry wood aspect of it. But, you know, the lack of performance is meh. This might be a great layering fragrance, so I'll definitely get back with you guys. I'm not going to give up on this fragrance because I do love the note of fig. I might just try to masculine it up a little bit. Maybe even something like Bentley Absolute, or some of the other Bentley line I might dress into here. Maybe something like Skywalker Original might go well with it. It might go really well with the heliotrope note on Mont Blanc's Presence. That might make it too sweet, more along the lines of the JPG sweet, but I know that the heliotrope and florals there are just a lot more potent. I might dumb it down with something like an Elysium or Trillium or FOMO, not Gary's Den, but FOMO Fraghead's Asylum. Those are the type of things in my mind, but I gotta just play with it. You know, give me some time with it. I might even freshen it up with something like Très Nuit, which is going to give you more of that green Irish tweed, just to push the earthiness and to reintroduce some of that zesty citrus that I think it's lacking due to its just linear floral fig sweet nature. But yeah, fig fragrances, sea salt and fig, Dolce & Gabbana K, any version, Vintage Green. Those are all fragrances that are $20 minus Dolce & Gabbana K, that are just outright better, that are going to be 7 or 8 out of 10 higher. I think I've rated Dolce & Gabbana K like a 8 or a 9. That's probably the highest rated fragrance out of the fig lineup for me. But yeah, you know, it's underwhelming. But like I said before, because it's so fresh and aromatic and light, it might be an incredible accent DNA to a different fragrance. A lot of times, I rarely buy a fragrance I don't like because I do a lot of research and I do a lot of testing. But when I come across these $20, $30 bottles and I hear enough about them, sometimes I pull the trigger and I don't always luck out. I'm sure you guys have experienced that before. Sometimes you get FOMO. But I'm going to tap back in with you guys and let you know, as of right now, I don't think it's a valid purchase. And I love Fig. I'm one of those guys who I think the note is super unique and dressed up the right way. I love the way Dolce & Gabbana K kind of did this modern fougere take on the Fig, where Fig is still very much in your face, but they dress it up to be so sophisticated and to have some other star players poking out. Sea Salt and Fig is just a very good intro level Fig. Smells almost just like the Ferragamo, but just a lot more potency, a little more playful. And then Vintage Green goes more in the green route, but has enough Fig and tea where it's still the star player, but it's got some equal counterbalance going on to it. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's why I'm here, to save you guys the money and the time. So let me know in the comment section below. I know as far as Ferragamo, some of the heavy hitters are the Bright Leather, the Uomo fragrance that kind of has that leather iris touch to it. There's a couple other ones as well that typically get good compliments, but this was a miss for me. Don't let it be a miss for you. I think I covered all the usual suspects that you guys are looking to get for the information, but let me know if you've come across this fragrance and if you disagree with me. But yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed week. Looking forward to reviewing some more fragrances with you guys. And until next time, this is the Scent Bubble reviewing Salvatore Ferragamo's, what the heck was this called, guys? Come on, help me out here. Just self-titled, Salvatore Ferragamo's Pour Homme for Men. EDT. Signing off.